Marcus Chen had oil under his fingernails and rust in his soul. For 23 years, he had fixed things that other people said could not be fixed. His shop sat alone on a dusty road in Nevada, far from the big cities and their fancy dealerships. The sign above the door read, "Chun's Last Chance Repairs," and people drove from hundreds of miles, a way to bring him their broken machines. They brought him cars that had sat in barns for 50 years. They brought him trucks that had rolled down mountains. They brought him engines that mechanics had declared dead. Marcus fixed them all. He had a gift. He could look at a pile of metal and see what it wanted to become. He could hear the quiet voice of a machine telling him where it hurt on the night everything changed. Marcus was working late. A 1967 Mustang sat in his garage with its hood open like a patient on an operating table. The engine had been underwater for 3 months after a flood. The owner had cried when she brought it in. Her father had left her this car, and every other mechanic had told her it was gone forever. Marcus did not believe in forever. He believed in patience and hard work and the simple truth that everything could be saved if you cared enough to try. He was cleaning carbon from the cylinder heads when the sky turned bright. A sound like thunder rolled across the desert, but there were no clouds. Marcus set down his tools and walked outside. The air smelled strange, like burning metal and something sweet he could not name. Then he saw the light falling from the stars. It came down fast, trailing fire and smoke. For a moment, Marcus thought it was a plane, but planes did not glow blue and silver. Planes did not scream like wounded animals. The thing crashed into his back lot with a force that knocked Marcus off his feet. Dirt and rocks flew into the air. Car parts scattered across the ground. Marcus grabbed a tire iron and walked toward the impact site. His heart was beating fast, but his hands were steady. He had learned long ago that panic never fixed anything. The crater was 20 feet wide. In its center sat something that was definitely not from Earth. The ship was beautiful, even in its broken state. It was black like the space between stars, smooth and curved like water frozen in mid-flow. It was about the size of a school bus, but shaped like nothing human hands had ever built. Smoke poured from cracks in its surface. A thick liquid that looked like purple blood leaked from underneath it and soaked into the Nevada dirt. Marcus stood at the edge of the crater, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. His mind kept telling him this was impossible. Ships did not fall from the sky. Aliens were things from movies, not things that crashed in the backyard of a mechanic in the middle of nowhere. Then the hatch opened. The metal groaned and split apart, revealing a darkness inside that seemed deeper than it should be. Something moved in that darkness. Something large. Marcus raised his tire iron, though he knew it would be useless against whatever was coming out. The creature that crawled from the ship was 7 feet tall. Its body was covered in scales that shifted color as it moved, flowing between purple and silver like oil on water. It had 4 arms, each one ending in hands with too many fingers. Its face was almost human in shape, but its eyes burned like liquid copper, bright and strange and full of pain. The creature took 2 steps and collapsed at Marcus's feet. It was dying. Marcus could see that clearly. Dark fluid leaked from wounds across its chest. Its breathing came in short, wet gasps. One of its 4 arms reached toward Marcus, and in its hand was something small and glowing. Marcus knelt down without thinking. Up close, the creature smelled like rain and electricity. Its copper eyes found his face and held on with desperate intensity. "Fix it." The creature spoke in English, but the words came out broken and strange, like it had learned them from a radio signal. "You are a mender. I have watched your hands bring death back to life." Marcus did not understand. He looked at the glowing thing in the creature's hand. It was a key of some kind, made of crystal that pulsed with inner light. Warmth spread through his palm when he took it. "My ship," the creature continued. Each word seemed to cost it tremendous effort. My world dies if I do not return. The scourge comes. Billions will burn. I carry information that can save them. But my ship, broken, beyond repair. I'm just a mechanic, Marcus said. I fix cars. I don't know anything about spaceships. The creature made a sound that might have been a laugh. I watched you. Watched you take dead things and make them live. Your people call it impossible. You call it Tuesday. Its copper eyes were starting to dim. Please, you are my only hope. Fix. My ship. Safe. My world. Then the creature's eyes closed, and it went still. Marcus sat in the dirt beside an alien, holding a crystal key that hummed against his skin like a living thing. Behind him, a spaceship leaked strange fluids into the desert. Above him, the stars looked exactly the same as they always had. But Marcus knew that nothing would ever be the same again. He thought about calling someone. The police. The government. Anyone who might know what to do with an alien and a broken spaceship. But then he looked at the creature's face, peaceful now in its unconsciousness, and he thought about all the people who had brought him their broken machines over the years. They had all been desperate. They had all been told that hope was foolish. And Marcus had helped them anyway. He looked at the ship, smoke still rising from its wounds. It was just a machine. A complicated machine, sure. A machine built by hands that were not human. But still a machine. And machines could be understood. Machines could be fixed. Marcus stood up and dusted off his jeans. He had work to do. First, he needed to get the alien inside. Then he needed to stop its bleeding. Then he needed to take a long look at that ship and figure out what was wrong with it. All right, he said to no one in particular. I've seen worse. It was a lie, of course. He had never seen anything even close to this. But Marcus had learned that sometimes you had to lie to yourself to get started on impossible things. The truth could wait until morning. Right now, there was a life to save and a ship to fix. Marcus Chen, mechanic of Nevada, got to work. The alien's name was Vethkai, and he came from a world called Axelara, 17,000 light years from Earth. Marcus learned this over 3 days of careful nursing. As the creature drifted in and out of consciousness and spoke in fragments about his home, the wounds were bad but not beyond help. Marcus had served as a field medic in the army before he became a mechanic. He knew how to stop bleeding. He knew how to clean wounds and fight infection. The alien's body was different from a human's, but not so different that basic principles did not apply. Blood was blood. Pain was pain. The desire to live was universal. Vethkai's blood was purple and thick, like syrup. His organs were in different places than a human's, but he was able to point and gasp instructions when Marcus needed guidance. By the second day, the bleeding had stopped. By the third day, Vethkai could drink water and eat small amounts of food. Human food seemed to work well enough. Though the alien found oranges particularly wonderful and ate 6 of them in a single sitting. Your people have mastered the art of fruit, Vethkai said weakly, juice running down his chin. This alone proves you are worth saving. While the alien healed, Marcus studied the ship. It sat in his back lot like a fallen god, beautiful and broken. The hull was made of something that felt like metal under his fingers, but rippled when he pressed too hard, as if it remembered being liquid. Marcus had never seen anything like it. He spent hours just walking around the ship, touching its surface, trying to understand its shape. On the 4th day, Vethkai was strong enough to stand. He walked out to the ship with Marcus and stood in silence for a long time, looking at the damage. The crash destroyed the primary systems, Vethkai finally said. His English was better now, clearer. He had explained that his people learned languages through special implants, and the implant had needed time to fully process human speech. The cascade drive is shattered. The neural lattice has gone dark. Without them, my ship cannot fly between stars. Show me, Marcus said. Vethkai led him inside. The interior of the ship was nothing like Marcus had expected. There were no hard edges, no bolts or seams. Everything flowed together like the inside of a seashell, all curves and spirals. Soft light came from the walls themselves, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. The air smelled clean and alive. The damage was immediately obvious. A section near the back of the ship had been torn apart, exposing layers of crystal and wire that sparked and flickered. Purple fluid dripped from broken tubes. Panels of light had gone dark, leaving dead spaces in the flowing walls. "This is the cascade drive," Vethkai said, pointing to a chamber filled with cracked crystals. Each crystal was the size of a fist, arranged in a pattern that made Marcus's eyes hurt if he looked at it too long. It creates a bubble of folded space that allows travel faster than light. But the crystals must resonate perfectly. A single crack ruins the harmony. Marcus looked at the crystals. At least half of them were damaged, shot through with fractures like broken ice. And this? He pointed to a web of thin silver threads that covered the walls, many of them severed or burned. The neural lattice. It is the ship's mind. It feels. It thinks. It flies. Without it, the ship is just metal. Can you fix it? Vethkai's copper eyes were sad. My people's finest engineers could not fix damage this severe. We have spent 40,000 years perfecting our technology. When it breaks like this, we build new ships. We do not repair. We have forgotten how. Marcus was quiet for a moment. He walked around the damaged section, studying every crack and burn and broken connection. His hands moved automatically, touching surfaces, testing materials, building a picture in his mind. "Tell me more about these crystals," he said. "You said they need to resonate perfectly. What does that mean, exactly?" Over the next several hours, Vethkai explained his people's technology. The science was complex, involving concepts that Marcus did not fully understand. Words like quantum harmonics and dimensional folding and subspace frequency. But Marcus did not need to understand everything. He just needed to understand enough. When Vethkai was finished, Marcus pulled out a notebook and started drawing. "What are you doing?" the alien asked, thinking. Marcus sketched quickly, his pencil moving in bursts. "You said the crystals need to resonate perfectly. But what if perfect is not the only way?" "I do not understand. Back on Earth, we have this thing called a choir. It is a group of people singing together. No single voice is perfect. Every singer makes small mistakes, hits notes that are slightly wrong. But when they all sing together, the mistakes cancel out. The whole becomes greater than the parts." Vethkai stared at him. "You are suggesting we make the imperfections work together?" "I'm suggesting that your people have been so focused on perfection that you forgot there are other ways to solve problems." Marcus tapped his pencil against the notebook. "These crystals are cracked. Fine. We cannot make them perfect again. But maybe we can make them harmonize anyway. Maybe we can tune each one to compensate for the others. That is not how our physics works. Maybe not your physics, but I've rebuilt engines that should not run. I've made transmissions work with pieces from 3 different cars. I do not build perfect machines, Vethkai. I build machines that work." For a long moment, the alien said nothing. Then he made a sound that Marcus had learned was laughter among his kind. "You are insane," Vethkai said. "Probably. You truly believe you can fix my ship using methods my people have never tried in 40,000 years?" Marcus grinned. "Only one way to find out." He worked for 2 weeks without rest. He used car batteries to jump-start dead systems. He used copper wire to bridge broken connections in the neural lattice. He created a solution from chemicals he found in his shop and used it to grow new crystal around the damaged cores, filling cracks and building bridges between fractured pieces. The work was hard. Many times he failed. Many times the system sparked and died and seemed beyond hope. But Marcus kept trying. He talked to the ship while he worked, encouraging it, promising it that things would be okay. Vethkai watched him with an expression that shifted from doubt to wonder to something like awe. On the 15th day, Marcus connected the final wire. The ship shuddered. The lights flickered. For a terrible moment, nothing happened. Then the crystals began to glow. Not perfectly, not evenly, but together. Each damaged crystal pulsed at its own rhythm, but the rhythms merged and flowed and became something greater. The neural lattice sparked back to life, silver threads lighting up like a constellation being born. The engine hummed. Vethkai fell to his knees. Purple tears ran down his scaled face. "Impossible," he whispered. "This is impossible." Marcus wiped grease from his hands and smiled. That's what they always say. The ship was alive again, but the journey ahead was long and dangerous. Vethkai explained everything as they sat in the soft glow of the repaired interior, eating canned soup that Marcus had heated on his workshop stove. Axelara was dying. Fleet called the Scourge had swept across the galaxy for centuries, conquering world after world. They were not interested in peace or trade or understanding. They wanted only destruction. 12 star systems had already fallen to their weapons. Now, they had come for Axelara. "My people have fought them for 3 years," Vethkai said. His copper eyes stared at something far away. "We have lost battle after battle. Our defense platforms are destroyed. Our fleets are scattered. The Scourge surrounds our world like a cage of fire." "Then why did you leave?" Marcus asked. "Because I found something." Vethkai reached into a pouch at his belt and pulled out a small device, no bigger than a coin. "I am not a warrior. I am a spy. For 2 years, I hid among the Scourge, learning their ways, mapping their systems. And I found the location of their command vessel, the heart of their fleet. If my people can strike this ship, the Scourge will fall into chaos. Their coordination will fail. We might finally have a chance. So this information can save your world? It can give us hope. But only if I can deliver it." Vethkai looked at the walls of his ship, now glowing with their strange patchwork of human and alien technology. "The repairs you made are brilliant, but they are also unstable. The systems do not work the way they should. They need constant adjustment, constant care. If I fly alone, the ship will fail before I reach home." Marcus understood what the alien was asking. He looked around the ship, at the wires and batteries and pieces of human machines woven into something cosmic. Then he thought about his shop, his quiet life. The Mustang still waiting in his garage. "How long?" he asked. "Perhaps 2 of your months. Maybe less if the fold space currents are favorable. 2 months in space. 2 months away from everything he knew. 2 months helping a strange creature save a world he had never seen." Marcus thought about it for about 5 seconds. "Let me grab some tools," he said. He locked up his shop, left a note for his sister explaining that he would be gone for a while, and packed a bag with clothes, food, and his best repair equipment. When he returned to the ship, Vethkai had prepared a seat for him beside the pilot's station. It was made from the same flowing material as the rest of the ship, but shaped to fit a human body. "I am grateful," Vethkai said. "My people will remember what you have done. Let us save them first. Then they can remember." The launch was smooth. Marcus felt pressure push him back into his seat as the ship rose from the Nevada desert. Climbing through clouds and atmosphere, until the blue sky turned black and filled with stars. Earth grew smaller below them, a marble of green and blue and white. Marcus watched until it was just another point of light among millions. "Beginning fold space transition," Vethkai announced. His four hands moved across controls that looked like liquid, flowing and reshaping under his touch. "You may experience some disorientation." Disorientation was not the right word. When the cascade drive activated, Marcus felt like his body was being stretched across infinity. The stars outside the viewport smeared into ribbons of light. Space itself seemed to bend and twist, folding around the ship like paper being creased. For a moment that lasted either a heartbeat or 1,000 years, Marcus existed everywhere and nowhere at once. Then it was over. The stars snapped back into focus, but they were different stars now, arranged in patterns Marcus did not recognize. "We have traveled 9,000 light years," Vethkai said. "We will need to make several more jumps to reach Axelara." The journey took 12 days. The ship performed well at first, but the jury-rigged systems needed constant attention. Twice the cascade drive began to lose its harmony, the crystals drifting out of sync, and Marcus had to dive into the engine chamber to adjust frequencies and tighten connections. 3 times, the neural lattice flickered and threatened to go dark, and Marcus spent hours rewiring sections with copper and silver and prayers. Vethkai watched him work with growing amazement. "You speak to the ship," the alien observed one night as Marcus crawled through a maintenance shaft. "You talk to it like it is alive." "Everything wants to work," Marcus replied, not looking up from his repairs. "Machines, people, stars. Everything in the universe wants to do what it was made to do. Sometimes things just need someone to believe in them. That is not how my people think. We see machines as tools. We use them until they break, then we replace them. Maybe that is why you forgot how to fix things." Vethkai was quiet for a long time after that. On the 12th day, they emerged from fold space above Axelara. Marcus had expected a beautiful world, green and blue like Earth. What he saw instead made his heart sink. The planet below was covered in dark clouds and spreading fires. Massive ships circled in orbit, black and angular like wounds in the fabric of space. The Scourge fleet, hundreds of vessels, maybe thousands, forming a cage around the dying world. "We are too late," Vethkai whispered. "The invasion has begun." Marcus studied the tactical display that Vethkai had brought up on the screen. The alien language had been translated into English by the neural lattice, showing ship positions and communication channels, and the faint signatures of axillary resistance forces fighting a losing battle below. "Where do you need to deliver your information?" Marcus asked. "The command center. Here." Vethkai pointed to a location on the surface, deep within a mountain range. But the communication arrays were destroyed in the crash. "I cannot transmit. I must deliver the data in person." "Through that?" Marcus pointed at the Scourge fleet. The ships hung in space like sharks waiting for prey. "It is impossible. We would be destroyed before we crossed half the distance." Marcus looked at the fleet, looked at the display, looked at his ship, held together with wire and hope and human stubbornness. "Maybe," he said slowly. "Maybe not." Vethkai turned to him with confusion in his copper eyes. "What do you mean?" Marcus was already studying the enemy positions, his mind working fast. "These ships, the Scourge, they have automated targeting, right? Computers that predict where enemies will be and fire accordingly." "Yes, very sophisticated systems. They can calculate trajectory with perfect accuracy." "Perfect accuracy." Marcus smiled. It was not a nice smile. "That is their weakness. I do not understand. They expect ships to fly perfectly, by the numbers. every dodge and weave calculated for maximum efficiency. Marcus pointed at the chaotic mess of human technology woven through the alien ship. But this ship does not fly perfect anymore. It flies like me, and I have never done anything perfectly in my life. Understanding began to dawn in Vethkai's eyes. You want to fly through the fleet. I want to fly so badly that their computers cannot predict us. I want to make every single wrong decision at exactly the right time. Marcus cracked his knuckles. I have been driving on dirt roads since I was 14 years old. Let me show you what human driving looks like. Vethkai stared at him for a long moment. Then the alien began to laugh, a clicking musical sound that filled the small cabin. Marcus Chen, he said, you are completely insane. So I have been told. Let us do it. The Axelar Command Center was buried deep beneath a mountain, protected by layers of rock and failing shields. When Vethkai made contact through a hidden frequency, the response was filled with static and desperation. The resistance was losing. They had maybe days before the Scourge broke through their final defenses. You have the location of the command vessel? The voice belonged to Admiral Kethvora, leader of what remained of the Axelar Defense Force. Even through the poor connection, Marcus could hear the exhaustion in her voice. Truly? I have it, Vethkai confirmed. But I cannot transmit. The data must be delivered in person. Through the Scourge fleet? The Admiral made a sound of despair. Impossible. Their targeting systems are perfect. No pilot could survive that crossing. Admiral, Vethkai said carefully, I am not the one who will be flying. There was a long pause. Explain. Marcus leaned toward the communication panel. My name is Marcus Chun. I am from a planet called Earth. You have not heard of us because we are very far away and not very impressive. But I am going to fly this ship through your enemy's fleet, and I am going to get Vethkai to your command center with his information. Another pause. You are not Axelar. You are not even a pilot. By what logic do you believe you can succeed where our greatest warriors have failed? By no logic at all, Marcus said. That is exactly the point. He explained his plan. The Axelar listened in stunned silence as he described how he intended to fly in patterns that broke every rule of stellar combat. Random movements, unpredictable choices. The flight path of a man who was either a genius or a madman, and probably both. This is not strategy, Admiral Kethvora said when he finished. This is chaos. Chaos is the one thing their computers cannot calculate. The Admiral was quiet for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice had changed. There was something new in it. Something that might have been hope. Fly true, human, she said. We will watch for your arrival. Marcus took the pilot's seat. The controls had been modified during the repairs, connected to interfaces he could actually use. The neural lattice fed him information through a small screen he had wired in himself, showing enemy positions, weapon ranges, and escape routes that updated in real time. Vethkai strapped himself into the seat beside Marcus. His four hands gripped the armrest tightly. Are you ready? The alien asked. No, Marcus said honestly. But I'm going anyway. He pushed the ship forward. The Scourge fleet saw them coming immediately. On the display, Marcus watched as dozens of weapons locked onto their position. Targeting computers calculated trajectories. Missiles prepared to launch. Energy weapons charged with killing power. Here we go, Marcus muttered and began to fly. He did not think about what he was doing. Thinking was too slow. Instead, he felt the ship around him, felt the hum of the patched-together engines, felt the vibration of crystals singing in imperfect harmony. He let his instincts take over, the same instincts that had helped him drive through flash floods and dust storms and all the dangerous roads of his youth. The first missiles came screaming toward them. Marcus did not dodge efficiently. He did not calculate the optimal escape vector. Instead, he jerked the ship sideways like he was avoiding a deer on a highway, then dove straight down for no logical reason, then spun in a corkscrew that made Vethkai make a sound of distress. The missiles missed. Their targeting systems had predicted a rational response. They got Marcus instead. Energy beams sliced through space where the ship should have been. Marcus was never where he should have been. He flew like he was drunk, like he was panicked, like he had no idea what he was doing. He made wrong decisions at exactly the right moments. He trusted the ship to hold together, and the ship trusted him not to get them killed. "The Scourge are confused," Vethkai reported, his voice tight with fear and excitement. "Their coordination is breaking down. They cannot predict your movements." "Good. Keep feeding me their positions." The fleet was thick around them now. Black ships filled the viewport, angular and menacing. Weapons fire lit up space like a deadly light show. Marcus wove between explosions, using debris as cover, riding shock waves like a surfer riding waves. The ship groaned and sparked. Warning lights flashed on his makeshift console. "Hull stress is increasing," Vethkai warned. "The modifications are straining." "Hold together," Marcus whispered to the ship. "Just a little longer. I promise I will fix everything when this is over. Just hold together." The ship held. A massive Scourge cruiser loomed ahead, blocking their path to the planet. It was the size of a small city, bristling with weapons. There was no way around it. There was no logical way through. Marcus aimed straight for it. "What are you doing?" Vethkai screamed, "Trust me." At the last possible second, Marcus rolled the ship and dove beneath the cruiser's belly, so close that he could see individual hull plates through the viewport. Weapons fire from other Scourge ships slammed into their own cruiser instead, unable to track the tiny vessel dancing in its shadow. Explosions bloomed across the massive ship's surface. Marcus shot out from beneath the cruiser and dove toward the planet, leaving chaos in his wake. The atmosphere hit them hard. Fire wrapped around the ship as they descended. Marcus fought the controls, keeping them steady through turbulence that shook his bones. Below, he could see the mountains where the Axilla Command Center waited. 30 seconds to landing," Vethkai called out. "The Scourge are pursuing." Marcus looked at the rear display. A dozen enemy fighters were on their tail, weapons charging. "I need more speed. The engines cannot take it. Then I will give them a reason to try." Marcus reached out and touched the wall of the ship, feeling its warmth, its pain, its desperate will to survive. "Come on, girl. One more push. Show them what you can do." The engines roared. The ship leaped forward like a horse given its head. The pursuing fighters fell behind, their computers still trying to calculate where the impossible human would go next. Marcus brought them down in a valley, surrounded by mountains. The landing was rough, the ship sliding across rocky ground and coming to rest against a cliff face. Steam poured from overheated systems. The lights flickered and dimmed. "We made it," Vethkai whispered. He sounded like he could not believe it. Marcus sat back in his seat, breathing hard. His hands were shaking. His heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. But a smile was spreading across his face. "Yeah," he said. "We made it." Outside, Axillor soldiers were running toward them. The mountain had opened, revealing a hidden entrance. The command center. Safety. Hope. Vethkai grabbed the data device and ran for the hatch. But at the door, he stopped and turned back. "Marcus Chen," he said, "I have traveled across the galaxy and seen wonders beyond description. But I have never seen anything like what you just did." "Neither have I," Marcus admitted. "And I was the one doing it." They laughed together, human and alien, as the Axillor soldiers reached the ship and the plan to save a world finally began. The data that Vethkai carried changed everything. Within hours of receiving the location of the Scourge command vessel, the Axelar launched their desperate attack. Every ship they had left, every weapon they could muster, every pilot who could still fly gathered for one final strike. Marcus watched from the command center as the battle unfolded on massive displays that covered the walls. The Scourge command vessel was enormous, a twisted cathedral of black metal hidden in the shadow of a dead moon. It was protected by hundreds of warships and defensive platforms. The odds of reaching it were terrible. The odds of destroying it were worse. But the Axelar did not care about odds anymore. They had hope now. Hope delivered by a human who flew like a madman and an alien who refused to give up. The battle was brutal. Ships exploded like fireworks against the darkness of space. For every Scourge vessel destroyed, an Axelar ship fell. The command center filled with the sounds of dying pilots and failing systems. Marcus wanted to look away, but forced himself to watch. These people were dying because of information he had helped deliver. He owed them the honor of witnessing their sacrifice. The breakthrough came 3 hours into the battle. A squadron of Axelar fighters, flying in formation patterns they had learned from watching Marcus, slipped through a gap in the Scourge defense. Their targeting was not perfect. Their flying was not efficient. But they were unpredictable, chaotic, human in all the ways the Scourge computers could not understand. They reached the command vessel. They fired everything they had. The explosion was visible from Axelara itself, a new sun briefly blooming in the sky. When it faded, the Scourge fleet fell into confusion. Without their central coordination, ships began to collide with each other. Weapons fired at random. The perfect machine of conquest became a scattered mess of panic and disorder. The Axelar showed no mercy. They pressed their advantage hard, destroying ship after ship, pushing the invaders back. By the next morning, the Scourge fleet was in full retreat, fleeing toward the edge of the system and the empty space beyond. The war was not over. It would take months, maybe years, to drive the Scourge from Axelar space entirely. But the tide had turned. The impossible victory had been won, and in the middle of the celebration, Marcus Chen sat quietly in a corner of the command center, eating something that tasted like chocolate and watching aliens dance. The days that followed were strange and wonderful. Marcus became famous among the Axelar, though he did not entirely understand why. They called him the Chaos Pilot, the Unpredictable One, the human who broke the numbers. Children followed him in the streets. Engineers begged to study his ship. Warriors asked him to teach them how to fly like he did. "I cannot really explain it," Marcus told a group of pilots who had gathered to learn from him. "I just do what feels right. I trust my instincts instead of calculations. I let the ship tell me what it wants to do." The pilots stared at him in confusion. Their entire culture was built on precision and planning. The idea of trusting feelings over mathematics seemed like madness to them, but some of them began to understand. And those pilots, the ones who learned to embrace chaos, became the most dangerous warriors in the Axelar fleet. Marcus spent his remaining time in the shipyards, working alongside Axelar engineers to understand and document his repairs. They were horrified by what he had done to Vethkai's ship. Human components mixed with Axelar technology. Imperfect solutions holding together systems designed for perfection. Wires and batteries and sheer stubbornness replacing elegant design. But it worked. Against all logic, against all expectation, it worked. And the engineers began to see value in the human approach. They started experimenting with imperfect solutions of their own. They learned to adapt and improvise instead of always building new. "You have changed us," Admiral Kethvara told Marcus on the day before his departure. She stood tall and proud, her scales gleaming in the light of Axelara's twin suns. "We thought we knew everything about technology. We thought our 40,000 years of advancement meant we had nothing left to learn. You showed us how wrong we were. I just fixed a ship, Marcus said. You fixed more than a ship. The Admiral pressed her 4 hands together in a gesture of deep respect. You fixed our way of thinking. You reminded us that perfection is not the only path to success. Sometimes the broken things, the imperfect solutions, the chaotic choices are exactly what is needed. Marcus did not know what to say. He had never been good with words, especially words about feelings. So he just nodded and smiled and hoped that was enough. On his final evening, Vethkai came to say goodbye. They stood together on a balcony overlooking the capital city, watching lights flicker to life as the sun set. The sovereignty wishes to make contact with your people, Vethkai said. Formally, officially. We want to invite Earth to join the community of civilized worlds. Earth is not very civilized, Marcus said. We have wars, pollution. We treat each other badly sometimes. We are a mess. So were we once. Every species is a mess in its own way. Vethkai reached into his robe and pulled out the crystal key, the same one he had given Marcus on the night they met. The question is whether you are willing to try to be better, whether you have hope. Marcus took the key. It felt warm and familiar in his hand, like an old tool he had used 1,000 times. I think we are worth fixing, he said slowly. We have problems, sure, but underneath all the mess, there are good people trying hard. We just need someone to believe we can be better. Then, perhaps you will help us, Marcus-chan. Vethkai's copper eyes glowed in the fading light. The universe is full of broken things. Broken ships, broken worlds, broken species that have lost their way. We have been trying to fix them with perfection for thousands of years, and we have failed more often than we have succeeded. He reached out and placed one of his 4 hands on Marcus's shoulder. But now we have found a new way. The human way. The way of the mender who talks to machines and teaches them to live again. I think this way might change everything. Marcus looked out at the alien city, at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, Earth waiting. His shop was waiting. The Mustang was still sitting in his garage with its engine half rebuilt. But there was a whole galaxy out there, too. A galaxy full of broken things that needed fixing. I've always liked a challenge, Marcus said. 6 months later, the first formal contact between Earth and the Axelar sovereignty took place. It happened in the Nevada desert, not far from a small repair shop with a sign that read, Chun's Last Chance Repairs. The alien delegation was led by Vethkai. The human representatives included scientists and politicians and diplomats, and standing quietly in the back, wearing his old work clothes and still carrying the crystal key in his pocket, was Marcus Chen. He had been given the unofficial title of Ambassador of Practical Solutions, a title he did not fully understand but accepted anyway. The galaxy would soon learn what Marcus had always known. Humans were not the strongest species. They were not the oldest or the wisest. Their technology was primitive, and their history was short and bloody. But when everything was falling apart, when the perfect solution did not exist, when all the mathematics said survival was impossible, humans found a way. They improvised. They adapted. They refused to accept defeat. They looked at broken things and saw possibilities instead of garbage. They were menders. All of them in their own way. And the universe was full of things that needed mending. On the day the treaty was signed, a young Axelar engineer asked Marcus what the secret was. How did humans do the impossible so often? How did they fix things that could not be fixed? Marcus thought about it for a long time. He thought about the Mustang he had finally finished, the one that had been underwater for 3 months and now ran better than ever. He thought about the alien ship held together with wire and hope. He thought about a dying world that had learned to fight in new ways. We just refuse to give up, he finally said. We look at something broken and we say, I can fix that. and then we keep trying until we do. The engineer considered this. But what if you cannot fix it? Marcus smiled. We never think about that part. We just focus on the fixing. And that, more than anything else, was what made humanity special. Not their strength or their intelligence or their technology, but their stubborn, unreasonable, absolutely insane refusal to accept that anything was truly beyond repair. The galaxy was about to learn that lesson. And nothing would ever be the same.